Welcome to the Consultancy Edge. I'm your host, Matt Hodkinson, and today I am joined by Leena Sowambur, founder of Marcoms by Leena, whose career journey spans from running digital campaigns for global icons like Beyoncé and Take That at Sony, Universal and EMI, to championing purpose-led branding and equity in today's marketing world. In our conversation, we dive into what's really going on behind the so-called expertise apocalypse and the rise of the AI Beachside Bros dominating the online space. Leena shares powerful insights on why authentic storytelling and aligning marketing with lived values matters more than ever, and how brands can avoid falling into the trap of performative purpose. Let's get right into it. Welcome to the Consultancy Edge, Leena Sowambur. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Matt?
Yes, really good. Listen, I've been waiting for this for a while. We booked this some months ago, and of course, you've been incredibly busy, and we'll hear all about what you've been up to. But you and I reconnected relatively recently on a couple of articles that I put out there. Some quite polarizing topics, as is usually the case with me. One on this idea of the expertise apocalypse, this flood of new sort of AI fueled youngsters and solopreneurs and what have you flooding the market. The other one, the AI Beachside Bros, and just this idea again, really, that yes, AI has been a disruptor, but it's democratizing consultancy as well. And I do want to get into this, but first off, Leena, for the listeners, tell us who you are, what you're about, name, rank, and number, all that type of stuff.
Okay. Well, I'm Leena Sowambur. I have been in digital marketing and PR for 25 years. So internet is all I've really known. When I say that, I mean into like professionally, like I know that people are like, oh, all I've really known is the internet. Well, when I say that is I had dial-up in my home, and I started my career in it. You could argue that I was one of the first digital marketing and PR people in the country. Yeah. Of that first generation, right? And having done it for 25 years and just watched this arc of what the internet has become. So I started off when I finished my master's in sales, and my career has kind of like done a progression through like the music industry, really. In that I went from sales to publishing to music industry, where I was working on international campaigns for artists from Beyoncé to Take That. And then I started my own business. I did a TEDx, and now I had a bit of a break, and then I'm now starting a new business. I went into property, and then I'm starting a new business now, which is a strategic communications business.
Amazing.
And for me, that's probably I would say in terms of my career, that's quite a natural arc, because now what I'm looking at after 25 years in this business is really more around policy and governance. And what we do with the internet and how it's influencing our daily lives, and big issues like electoral democracy.
Yeah.
And the narratives that we are facing day to day, this barrage of narratives. And so that's now the thrust of my work. Does that make sense? I hope it
does.
Makes sense.
It does. It's been quite a journey by the sounds of it, and a diverse one as well. And with that, as you're bringing that new proposition to market now, of course, I guess when I'm talking about things like the expertise apocalypse and being a bit hyperbolic perhaps about it, and this kind of flood of people into the market who are, on the face of it, solo experts fueled by the AI upsurge and kind of riding that wave. I'm seeing people portraying themselves as experts, others wearing like a badge of honor the fact that they have no technical knowledge and yet are becoming AI consultants. How I mean, what was it about that content that kind of really landed with you, and how does that reflect on your approach perhaps to bringing this new business to market now?
Okay, so there are lots of different layers to that topic. Okay. So the most relatable layer, I would say, is that for the people listening, it's like if you are a long-standing consultant in whatever sector that you're in, and you're seeing this huge flood of people coming into the market, and I get those people messaging me all the time on LinkedIn. If they're not, some 23-year-old boy, I'm sorry, like who's like, I recruit for the 1% for the 1%. Okay, we all know what they look like. Or here's a done for you campaign for £1,200 per month or something like that. It's all very formulaic.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. And so I understand it from a personal perspective, and I can relate to it in the sense that it can give you it's very disorientating. And the reason I would say, if you as a consultant and you've been in your business for 20 odd years or 10 odd years or whatever, and you're seeing this huge influx in and you feel drowned out, it's because you're being drowned out. And this is kind of what I want to get to. It's like, with this conversation, I'm already hoping to help the listeners, your listeners, actually see through the distortion. And understand the environment that they're in, because it is very disorientating. You are wondering what's going on. It can give you a bit of an existential crisis, I think.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't know what is happening here. Expert doesn't mean what I thought it meant anymore. Why is it happening? And I will reveal why it's happening. And because if you imagine that, in those magical fantasy movies, there's like this mirror, and that you kind of push it, okay, and you push it, and then you kind of see into the world, right? And this is the distorted world, and that's the real world. That's kind of what is going on here. Or you could sort of say this, I hope this conversation is a huge amount of information that we have to cover, and I will give sources for this and extra reading material, and it is a rabbit hole. And I would say to anyone listening to this, go down the rabbit hole. Don't be afraid of it. Go down it, because it will really open your eyes and help you reconcile what you're dealing with. But it is literally, what you're seeing is a glamour. It's a glamour. It's not real.
And talk to us about that, Leena. What's creating the distortion? And I know we run the risk, I know, of really opening some eyes out there with this and skirting some very controversial topics. But yeah, first off, I guess, how do you define that distortion? What is it to you?
The distortion has always existed. It's just at scale. Okay, so all these experts that I don't want to muddy that word. But the professionals that are coming into the area, into this area, that are, and it's sort of like, it's flooded, that there's that flood of the market. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to say this in a way that is going to sound really tough. Okay. And that is on purpose, because it's to remove the mask. Okay. Those people have always existed. Yeah. Okay. And back in the day, I'm showing my age now, before the internet, okay, those people, the kind of the Russell Brunsons and the Alex Hormozis and the Sam Ovenses have always existed. They're nothing new. And it's the same playbook every single time. And back in the day, and I don't know whether you will remember this, but before the internet, we used to call them get rich quick schemes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm so sorry to say this, but you need to hear it. They were the people who would advertise in the back of local newspapers next to adult chat lines, because guess what? It's the same market. It's the same market.
Impressionable people responding to a big promise. And okay, so that's now at scale, the internet, and I guess what has democratized this even further, Leena, as we've seen what AI can do in terms of content creation. We see the avatars that people are creating of themselves and of others, of of people who don't exist. We've seen influencers who are AI generated, garner millions of followers on Instagram, and recently, we've seen actually one of them exposed as being an AI that had pictures taken at Wimbledon and had built up this whole following. So is that what you mean by it's now happening at scale, that it's never been more accessible, that it's never been actually, the term I keep hearing is faceless marketing as well, that you don't have to put yourself out there anymore, you don't have to be the true influencer.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, okay, so any new technology that isn't regulated is going to be open to grifting.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm not going to, look, at the end of the day, there are plenty, this is not to say that everybody that's doing this is a grifter, but it's open to abuse. So back when the Telegram was Telegram? Yeah, it was the Telegram that was a new technology. People were doing get rich quick schemes using that. People have always done it. With infomercials in the States, there was a Vietnamese real estate guy called Tom Vu who did the same playbook. You see my mansion, you see my yacht, you see my money, do you want to get rich like me? It's the same thing, okay? What's different here is that because social media particularly has basically collapsed the standards around advertising, right? Around promoting yourself. So anyone can start up, anyone can create the visibility. And whereas prior to that, our media was and still is regulated. But the reason that regulation happened was because they'd already been through that cycle. Okay, so they'd already been through that cycle. So, there was a time when press wasn't regulated. When the printing press came out, that was not regulated. And there was a lot of people were writing printing all kinds of stuff and spreading it around. I'm having to use really broad brushstrokes for this because we can't really go into huge detail because for the sake, in terms of the brevity of this conversation, the amount of time that we have here. But the cycles that in media that you see, the regulation that happened was because it was open to that kind of activity. And that's what you're seeing here as well. So because anyone can on social media can set up and claim anything, that's why you're seeing what you're seeing on social media. So as an example, back in the 1920s, there was a financial crash. And the reason there was that financial crash is because there were unqualified, inexperienced financial advisors flooding the market. And that's when the financial sector got regulated, because loads of people lost their money.
Yeah, because they were taking kickbacks and it was undeclared, and it was a bit of a wild west, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what we're seeing now. It is literally because it's the speed that anyone can set themselves up as anything.
And Leena, it doesn't look like that regulation is coming anytime soon. Not in a way that's really going to curb this whole trend. And what do you see in terms, if we were to predict the future, and of course you've got your finger on this particular pulse, what do you think is going to happen? Will it go the same way as, for example, TV regulation and some of the other media, that it will get to critical mass and cause real change? Or do you think that's going to be difficult to really achieve?
I had a conversation with some contacts with that are trying to put policy in place with regards to that. It is really difficult because it becomes a human rights issue. So I think for them, they're still kind of seeing social media as okay, well, it's people, they're setting up accounts and they're just expressing themselves and they're just creating content, etc., etc., etc. And in my conversation with them, I said, no, if they have a link in bio and they're driving people to a funnel, then whatever way you look at it, their content is advertorial. Right? And so it's very difficult because they might pull on one piece of policy over here and unravel another bit of policy over here. And so you will start to see things come into place. So, for example, the recent changes when it came to the sort of the age verification on certain websites that's just come in. Okay, so you will start to see some of that, and then it might be removed, and then something else might come in and replace it, and then that might change, and then something else might come in and replace it. They basically got to test what works and what doesn't, because we're at a point, I think, with social media where it is so massive that now the policy has to catch up with it.
Yeah.
And they have a history of regulation that they, again, if they introduce a piece of policy or a law here, it interferes with the law over there. So it's that kind of conversation at the moment. So we're not going to see any big changes soon, I don't think. I think you'll start to see very small changes introduced. And you will hear conversations online about, and those conversations are still happening, or people are saying, they're trying to get our ID and they're spying on us and all that kind of stuff, and just infringing our human rights and that kind of thing. You will hear that, but I can tell you that they are very mindful of that. It's just very, very difficult.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts.
It's very, very difficult because, okay, what happens if somebody has their own page on Instagram and it's just their photos, and then they decide to put in an affiliate link for a wish list?
Yeah.
They're not particularly running a business, but equally they're also asking for things to be purchased for them, so yeah.
Absolutely. Leena, let's reflect on how this affects consultancy leaders.
Yes, of course.
If I think about our listeners looking to promote their business, of course, where we started this conversation, this flood of content, flood of attention, and let's call it the democratization of that expert sort of economy. How can consultancy leaders really sort of promote themselves? How with your digital marketing hat, with everything that you do in the world of PR and what have you, how can our listeners be promoting themselves with all of that going on, without the promise of regulation and certain voices being sort of quietened? And let's face it, we're probably still on that upward trajectory in terms of the volume of content that's out there. What are some of the more proactive things that we can promote here?
Okay, so let's diagnose what the flood of professionals are doing first. Okay, and then we can look at what your audience can do. Yeah. So what those people are doing, and it's if they go into looking into, like, they look at people like Russell Brunson and all that kind of stuff, and they understand that those people are running a funnel. Yeah. Okay, and all they're doing is running ads and shoving people into a funnel and pushing people towards a webinar or a course or what have you. Okay, that's basically what they're doing. And that's why you see funnel hacks and this, that, and the other all over social media. Okay, so what I would say is, don't do that. Don't do that. The reason is because I I've looked into it over and over and over and over again. I do a lot of thinking about it, and that to me seems like quite the cash treadmill. You know, you run ads, they get more expensive, and my understanding is that many of these people will they'll start companies, take out loans against those companies, fund ads, right, and push people to a funnel. Yeah. What I would say is, don't go onto social media to get your clients, if that's what you're doing. Use social media as social proof. Okay. Yeah, but don't go onto, because it's for me, and I do digital marketing and PR for a living, and I saw the birth of social media in this country. It's too fragmented. It's too unreliable. You have zero control. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to have control over your distribution. Okay, so look, what I would say is it's not necessarily about promoting yourself more. It's about looking at the infrastructure of your business and looking at what are the things that you can put in place that you can control. So, for example, the distribution that you can control, your licensing, your partnerships, right? Those are things that you can control. That is what I would put my focus on.
And when it comes to distribution, I guess for consultants, a lot of that is going to be, I guess we're talking about ownership of your audience a little bit.
Yeah.
And social media has been that sort of, well, I've talked about this, and I think actually Russell Brunson might have been the one to whom I have to attribute this idea of rented traffic versus owned traffic, and the fact that, you know, you would do well, whether it, you know, these guys have done it via ads, they've fueled their pipelines, and they've got their lead magnets. And as soon as somebody is opted in, essentially, they're on your email database, and that is your owned traffic. You know, the fact that you have somebody's email address, that's taking ownership of your audience a little bit. And yes, email lists decay and everything that goes in with that. But is that what you're referring to a little bit? Is taking control of your audience, of your reach, and making sure that you have access to that audience, you know, without being beholden to the likes of Meta or LinkedIn and the like?
Yes, but also I think it depends on the actual product that the types of products that the consultants are selling. Okay, so it kind of, so if you are, I mean, if you're someone who's doing one-to-one consultancy, I think, yes, you can use social media, and yes, you can use email, but at the same time, again, it depends on the type of consultancy. If, for example, you are, I don't know, it's something along the lines of maybe some kind of commoditized skill as a consultant, okay, then actually commoditized skills do really, really well in networking environments. Yeah. IP does terribly in networking environments. Terrible. It's just doesn't work because everybody wants to pick your brain. So it doesn't work. So I think you kind of have to, I think it's a case of, it's not just about looking like, oh, do more email or do this on digital marketing. Now, as somebody that's been in digital marketing and PR for that long, I see the limitations of it. And there is you can't have a one size fits all, and the reason for that is because every business is different, and every customer buys differently from every business, dependent on who you are, what your product is, how you deliver yourself. Okay, so for example, a commoditized skill, e.g. web development, e.g. video, some kind of video production, e.g. social media management, commoditized skill, interior design, they do really, really well in networking environments and local networking environments. Yeah. Okay, really, really well in those places because it's a commoditized skill. Okay, so I would say almost in a way, just get offline. Go offline.
Yeah, I think I think that's what we were taught with the emergence of LinkedIn. Once people started to work it out, even when I know organizations, even B2B and some consultancies were using Facebook and had a Facebook page, Facebook advertising and what have you. But the advice I received after people had kind of figured it out was always take the relationship offline.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is sometimes those relationships can start offline as well. Don't neglect the networking opportunities. And I think, we've obviously, we're well past COVID now and the pandemic and everything. People have, albeit slowly, returned to those sort of face-to-face environments. So I don't know whether has networking been a big part of your businesses going back, Leena, and if so, how do you make the selection of where you're going to hang out? I think it's all too easy for us as marketers to say fish where the fish are. What are you looking for in a good network?
Okay, for me personally, it is for my IP and for strategic communications, it is those big institutions, which is why I go to NATO conference. I get invited, but it's like that's why I go to NATO conferences, because that's the thinking that they're looking for.
Yeah.
Right. So I think a lot of it is what I would say to anyone as a consultant is, and I know this is not maybe it's not the digital marketing and PR advice that you want to hear, because everyone wants a tip or a trick or like a magic wand or something like that. What I would say is actually really know yourself. Really know yourself and really know what you're bringing to the table. And this is partly why I think it's a case of removing that distortion around you, because I think it's very easy to get caught up in everyone else's visibility, everyone else's ads, everyone else is doing, oh, that person's got 200,000 followers and they're doing a course and they got a webinar and they're doing a lifetime value product for £1,000, and they seem to be getting, then they're talking about how many people, how many customers they've got and how many cases they've got, and etc., and all these big numbers. Okay. But also what I would say is that the alpha bro psychology tells them to do that. Tells them to talk big numbers, tells them to outspend everyone else, tells them to do it, and so tells them to be very visible, because it's all borrowed credibility and borrowed authority. Okay. And so know yourself, and also understand that what you bring to the table, and if I could sort of give, if there is one magic trick I could give, is what you bring to the table as an experienced consultant, which they don't have, is your diagnostic experience. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, if there's a problem, because everything for them is flattened into one formula, right? As an experienced consultant, you have diagnostic experience. You can turn, you have the ability to turn a problem around on a sixpence. Because of the experience, because you have that experience, because you've done your education, you've worked for free in some kind of work experience environment, you've gone up the corporate ladder, you've taken the hits in those types of environments, you started a business, that business has closed down, you started another business, all of that counts. Okay. It all counts. And don't be bamboozled by what is a glamour in front of you. So for me personally, if I was to talk about myself in this, I didn't want to really talk about myself because it's really for you and your audience, but I had to go away and do a huge amount of thinking in terms of what I bring to the table, what my IP is, how I think, how I actually think, and how I can turn that thinking into and basically turn it into a service or turn it into a product. And I, through a lot of analysis, and it's taken me 2 years to get to get to this point, is I have a very systems way of thinking and a very forensic way of thinking. Okay. And that's the kind of thinking that works at you know, sort of the institutional level, the policy level, that kind of governance level, which is where I am best suited.
Yeah.
For me personally. And it's taken me quite a journey to get there. The way I think does not work well in my local networking group. Total failure. I did it, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone's like, oh, can we meet for a coffee and can I pick your brains? Blah, 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 blah. No. Okay. It's like, it doesn't work. It's like, okay, yes, but no. So it's, like I say, it really is about knowing yourself and really investigating how you think about things, how you diagnose things, and really getting into that. Once you have that, then you will be able to work out where the best environment is for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So it might be that the best environment for you is social media. But it might be that the best environment for you is social media because your best clients are FMCG clients, right? FMCG does amazingly on social media.
Yeah.
So if you want to attract an FMCG client, of course you're going to be on social media, right?
Yeah.
So do you see what I'm saying? So I think it's a lot of it is to do with really coming back to yourself, what you bring to the table, what you offer, how you think, your uniqueness in it, and doing that work, that internal work, rather than getting bamboozled by the noise and the distortion.
That's really
yeah.
helpful. So I think we arrive back at sort of fish where the fish are, but also it's to match the style of fishing and how you are as a fisher person, I guess. And Leena, you spoke a lot about experience there, and I'm keen to know, as you go on to this next phase of your business, how do you think you are going to deploy that experience now? What have you learned, I guess, that's going to shape the building of this new business? Because I think when you get to this stage, as you've got as much experience as you and I have, you want to make sure that you're not falling foul of some of those mistakes of the past. I guess that's where consultants can really bring their experience to bear, is by swerving all of that. So how are you approaching this new phase, and with all of that experience behind you?
Well, I think it's about having those creative solutions. I don't want to give too much away.
We're getting a pre-launch right here.
How do I do it without giving too much away? Because I have the answer, but I can't give it away. Okay. Right. So, for me personally, it's about systems dealing with counter narratives. Systems for promoting counter narratives. Okay. So, and I can't say it.
Going too close.
No.
Let the cat out of the bag. I wouldn't do that to you.
Yeah. No. Okay. So it's properly identifying the problem, that diagnostic experience that you have, and being really creative in your solution. Like, what is it that they don't have? Okay. I will give you one, okay, which is currently in social media we have a lot of influencers of a certain disposition, okay, that are pulling people in a certain direction, okay, but the balance isn't there on the other side. So that is so what needs to happen is a sort of a counter narrative. What's the word? Unit.
Yeah. Okay. Polarizing sort of viewpoint, seeing it from the other side.
Yeah. What needs to happen? There needs to be a better counter narrative, and a stronger counter narrative to balance out both sides, so that people get the information that they need in order to make better decisions when it comes to voting.
Amazing. And I guess the kind of added benefit of that is that people, you're presenting that alternative viewpoint that isn't the noise, that isn't the norm. It's because it's that counter viewpoint, and that's where attention comes from. I talk about this a lot because it kind of leans into what I do in positioning and messaging.
Yeah.
When there is a well-trodden message over here, where there's a myth being perpetuated, where there's a belief system being built, anybody that comes in and has a counterpoint argument to that is going to stand out. They're going to get the attention. But I guess that's where authenticity is a big part of this as well, right?
Yeah.
That's unequivocal. That has to be there as well.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And but it's, I mean, kind of going back to your question, like, how can consultants bring that sort of, stand out, I guess, against that noise is, I don't think it's not more visibility. I think going back to what you were saying in Expert Apocalypse and the AI Beach Bros. It's not more visibility, and the reason it's not more visibility is what you have to understand is that they're taking out debt to outspend you. I think actually, all right, here it is. Okay, so there is a technique that is used, and it's called flood the zone with crap. Okay, I'm not going to say where it comes from because I don't want to get conspiratorial, but it's called flood the zone with crap. Okay, and you see it used in political campaigns. And I don't think it's necessarily a case that it was like purposefully adopted in the sense that, we're gonna sort of drive people over to one side of the political spectrum. I just think that there's this idea that, this works, we copy it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what's happening is they're flooding the zone. To cut through it, you don't flood the zone. You become very, very narrow in your focus and laser focused in order to get through it. It's not more spray and pray.
Yeah, absolutely. You just add to the flood. Yeah, you just get swept away in the deluge.
Yeah, you're just adding to the noise.
Yeah.
I think you're just adding to the noise. Yeah. So when I say go back to who you are, go back to how you think, go back to what you bring to the table. And I know there's sorts of things that we always hear those things being told to us, but actually that's a lot of really quite deep internal work to do it properly.
Yeah. And actually you cannot look and sound like anybody else. You cannot blend into the background if you really do go to that degree within yourself. And as you said, that kind of self-awareness piece, because I think where a lot of consultancies go wrong and where they do get swept up in the deluge is when they try to be like others in the sector, where there is a certain amount of mimicking, as I call it, sameism, twinning, not winning. And actually you have to look inwards to really find that uniqueness, that differentiation. So I'm all for that. Leena, we've come to the part where I ask you to participate in our recurring feature, which is Snog, Marry, Avoid. Now, first off, a snog is a quick win, something that you would advocate our listeners implement perhaps in their consultancy right now to make a quick difference. What would that be for you?
Something that they could implement now?
Yeah, quick win.
Oh, a quick win. Stop. Use your social media for social proof.
Yeah. So that's about having a strong profile, showcasing your wins, and
evidence. You lead with evidence.
Yeah, lead with evidence. Fantastic.
Lead with evidence. Yeah.
Love that. Okay, a marry is a long-term, got to be part of the business for all time, something you absolutely couldn't live without. What would that be?
Research.
Research. Where do you get your research? We've talked about, of course, the sort of the distortion that's out there. How can people really get a sense that they're getting good information? Is it really just about finding the right sources, or is it a bit more nuanced than that?
I think, look, it depends on the reason for me, research is a huge part of it, obviously, because of the work that I'm doing now. But, I have 2 degrees and I was a university lecturer, so I know how to research.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I was a university lecturer for 4 years at the University of East London. I taught on 4 different degrees, taught hundreds of students how to do it. So the first thing I would say is learn how to do your research. So you learn how to identify good, strong sources.
Yeah, excellent.
And that it's also okay to withdraw your belief around a lot of the information that you see around you. That's okay.
I like that.
Do it.
That's a great tip.
Withdraw your belief and look, and be evidence led. Yeah.
That would fly in the face of convention for many, I know, but not in the consultancy world, of course. And lastly, then, avoid. What would you ditch overnight, or what would you advocate that our listeners ditch from their business? Something that's perhaps not serving them. And again, this might fly in the face of advice that they might have received from the so-called gurus out there.
Honestly, if I would ditch the need to have all those numbers. Don't feel like you need to have 200,000 followers or 150,000 followers. That's not any type. When I say social proof, that's not any type of social proof. And the reason I say that is because you can go onto I can't remember what it's called, that website, but you can buy hundreds of thousands of followers for like £50.
Yeah.
I've actually written a guide on this, on how to spot like follower stuffing and inflated accounts anyway.
Yeah.
So I would don't get caught up in numbers. The reason I say don't get caught up in numbers is because everybody else is getting caught up in numbers. If you get caught up in numbers, then you're going to get taken off track.
Yeah, love that. Yeah. What a great way to finish. Leena, thank you so much for being with us today. I know you didn't want to make it about you, but if people want to connect with you, if they want to find you, where's the best place to do that?
Right. Well, the first place to do that would be www.marcoms.com. That's MARCOMMS by BY Leena LEENA.com, and that's my thought leadership platform where I'll be writing about more of this stuff.
Wonderful. And perhaps if people are hanging around NATO, they might see you there as well.
If you're going to be, in Latvia in October, on the 8th of October, then I'll be there.
Wonderful.
So, but that's where you can find out more about me, and I will be writing more about this kind of thing. Wonderful. To kind of help people get through it, I think.
Good. Yeah, we all need a bit of that. Leena, I think you've given us a fresh perspective today. Thank you so much for spending some time with us on the Consultancy Edge.
No problem. My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.